Okay, I believe we are live on Facebook and YouTube, and this is just the pre-summit conversation because it's really starting officially in about 10 minutes.
Absolutely.
We're just making sure that the stream is working and that everything is good. So here, I'm gonna play this for now. Look at that. It's ripples of peace spreading out in the world. So I want to ask if you're able to see this stream, can you make a comment on either if you're on Facebook or on YouTube? Can you just put a comment like I can see this, I can see the video. That way we know that the stream is working. And we'll keep an eye out for your comments. Hey, Dr. Kim, how are you doing?
Hi, Kevin. I'm doing wonderfully. I'm so excited to be here.
That's great. How's your cough? Like, I know you had a cough earlier today. Are you feeling better?
I know. I have to tell you all, I cannot wait for this for so many reasons. One of them is that it has been, and I know it's not just myself, a very, very filled couple of months here. So a lot of travel, but for very good things. So, I'm still human, I suppose.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Oh, yeah,
Giovanna's
that's good.
there.
Yes, Giovanna, I see the comment. I can see in here. Thank you, Giovanna. Is anybody able to see it on YouTube? Maybe Giovanna, can you check on YouTube and see if it's working there? It's on our at Meditation Mag, youtube.com/at Meditation Mag. Or maybe I wonder if I can send a comment in the comments. Let's see. Let's see. I just sent this. Oh, sweet. Okay, so if you can see, maybe Giovanna, you can click on that link to see on YouTube. Okay, so we're going into the Peace Summit in a moment, and just to let everybody know what we are going to be doing. First of all, I want to let people know, I'm going to post in the comments. Please post comments if you have questions for speakers, and we will ask them. Well, we'll try to ask them, I should say. We will try to ask them. Okay, that's a caveat. So, yes, thank you all for your comments. I'll give you a little idea of who's coming up in the next few minutes. We have at 11:30 a.m. our time, New York time, we have Gurudev, Sri Ravi Shankar, the founder of The Art of Living and world-renowned peace activist and peacemaker who made peace, well, brought a ceasefire in Colombia after 50-something years of war there. He's going to be streaming in about 7 minutes. And after that, we have Parents Circle, which is two mothers, an Israeli and a Palestinian mother who have lost children in the war, who are talking about forgiveness and reconciliation. It's a very powerful one. Then we have Nonviolent Peace Force, who are in Sudan and Myanmar, and they are going to be talking about how we can use nonviolent strategies to keep people safe in conflict situations and hopefully resolve conflicts. And we have Satish Kumar, who is a powerful nonviolence activist, who is going to be talking about the philosophy of nonviolence and whether there are any limits to what it can do in resolving conflicts. I think that's pretty much the schedule for today. We also have Thik Machol, who's a Sudanese refugee who became a peace activist, and he's currently in Uganda. And we have, at the end of the day, we have a meditation from Lisa Kolpa, which is a beautiful meditation on visualizing and manifesting peace on earth. And I did forget to mention, we also have Chandra Lakombe, which and an interview with him. It's called Song for Peace, and it's very, very beautiful. And I want to play a little bit of that music right now before we start the Gurudev video. The Gurudev interview happened a couple of weeks ago, and we edited up for your viewing pleasure and enjoyment, so that we took out any pauses or ums and things like that and made it nice and streamlined and beautiful. So we're very excited for that, which will be airing in a few minutes. And the Chandra Lacombe music, I'm going to start playing it now, and we'll have the interview with him later in the day. And then we also have a lot of great stuff for tomorrow, but I'll talk about that later as we go on. So I'm going to add the music now. Yeah. Okay, let's see here.
There must be a way for peace. All creatures here, out of love, shall lead a life of joy and equanimity, to heal the heart's animosity. Time has taught to reform misdeeds, and to remember to find within our gift. So share your love and trust the real peace can conquer war. Come sing with me. Om Satoma Sagamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityurma Amritam Gamaya Shanti Shanti Shanti. There must be a way for peace. All creatures here, out of love, shall lead a life of joy and equanimity, to heal the heart's animosity. Time has taught to reform misdeeds, and to remember to find within our gift. So share your love and trust the real peace can conquer war. Come sing with me. Om Satoma Sagamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityurma Amritam Gamaya Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Satoma Sagamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityurma Amritam Gamaya Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Satoma Sagamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityurma Amritam Gamaya Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Beautiful. Oh, there we go. That's my mic. That was beautiful music. Were you able to hear the music? Let's see. Yes. Okay. I see comments that people were able to hear. That was Chandra Lakombe, and we have an interview with him later in the day. And he just released the music video for "Song for Peace," and we're going to be playing that after Parents Circle, which I think is going to be one of the most powerful segments that we're going to be doing during this Peace Summit.
Agreed.
So, Dr. Kim, do you want to say a few words before we start the video from Gurudev?
I would absolutely love to first acknowledge that it is so wonderful to be here with all of you discussing a topic that goes without saying how important it is, not just for us right now in our lives at a time where I have seen more than ever in my lifetime many people concerned. Let's just say it as it is. This is a topic that has been in existence throughout history, but again, in my lifetime, I look around and I know that this is something that we all share in. And Kevin and I decided to come together and of course with Meditation Magazine, the Peace issue coming out, which is going to be so beautiful as always, we decided to take a step forward on this topic, which is something that it can be a little bit challenging. So I actually just want to come right out and acknowledge that. But then we realized that it is something that's really important, not just to all of us right now, but for our future generations, our children, every small person around who we have to make this world a better place for. At least that's something I know I commit to. Kevin, the same, and I'm certain everyone here. So I am truly looking forward to these unbelievable individuals who do not just, it's not some kind of trend that they do, they truly commit their lives to making this world that much better for us right now and for all of those to come. And, as many of you know, my teachers, my lineage come from as I would say, very Taoist, very universal. The Tao is the universe. And at the very core of this understanding, even if you've never heard of the Tao before, is something that I could not live without. And that is the understanding of balance. And so I will actually go ahead and just say what I was about to say. There's never one answer. And that's one of the hardest things for human beings is that we want A plus B equals C. It gives us a sense of security. It helps us to we believe better understand what may come, but the reality is we constantly have to balance. There's always the one side and the other side and sides, but we have to come together to find that. And at the end of the day, it is my firm belief, the one thing I am certain of is that no matter who we are, the experiences that we have, everything that makes us so unique as individuals, in the foundation of it all, we are all human. And it is my ultimate wish ever since I was young. This is something that just I truly kind of a personal moment here. I never can understand how no matter what's happening, doesn't mean we can't get angry, doesn't mean we can't get hurt, doesn't mean we can't haul up all of those emotions, but how important it is. I could not live without the understanding that at the end of the day, we are all human. We all walk through challenges. We all walk through beautiful experiences. And in moments of challenge, in moments where we do not understand each other, if more of us could just take one moment, one pause to root ourselves, to realize that we truly are all human, I imagine that in some way, shape, or form, it would make whatever situation, wherever we are in the world, that much better. And so
Yes.
I have a feeling, right, Kevin? I mean, you and I, we love
Yes.
this conversation together. So
Yeah. Thank you so much, Dr. Kim, for those beautiful opening words. Yes, we could talk about this for hours, but we have so many amazing speakers. We got to start Gurudev's video now so that we're not late for the Parents Circle. So I'm going to start, but that was an amazing way to start it. And, Gurudev is a great embodiment of that balance. And you'll see in the interview, some of the people that we have that are speaking maybe are more extreme about their views about certain things, nonviolence, for example. But Gurudev, I feel, has a very, very nuanced uh, understanding. And I think that comes from many years of experience as a peacemaker and a world leader. So we're going to start watching the Gurudev interview right now, which we recorded a couple of weeks ago in Barcelona. And then we're going to be streaming it now with nice, smoothed out and edited for your viewing pleasure. So here it is, the Gurudev interview, and I hope you enjoy it. Say we should take Israel's side. Some people say we should take Palestine's side. Some people say we should take Ukraine's side. I don't hear so much about that for Russia. Is it important to choose a side in that way that people are suggesting, or do you think it's better to try to support all sides in peace and understanding?
You take the side of peace you take the side of humanity. Don't label yourself. Once the moment you label yourself, you'll be useless to bring peace. You'll be useless to help people to come together. So, people who take the side of peace, side of humanity, will say that everybody belongs to their side. If Israel is acting in a certain way, we understand why Israel is acting. So Palestine is acting, we understand what was their issue. So you need to bridge the bridge, then a bridge will have to have a foot on both sides of the shore. It cannot be a bridge if it is only on one side.
Thank you for being here, Gurudev. I'm so grateful for the opportunity to speak with you on the topic of peace in the world and how we can bring peace to this world for our upcoming peace issue of Meditation Magazine. Gurudev Sri Ravi Shankar is one of the leading peace advocates, world renowned for his work in resolving conflicts, national conflicts in Colombia and in India. What he did in Colombia is amazing, ending a 50-year conflict by coming in as a mediator. And it's really beautiful to see the work that you've done to bring peace into this world. Thank you for that, Gurudev. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. And thank you for being here today to speak with us on how we can help to bring peace in the world in general.
Wonderful, Kevin. Nice to be with you.
I want to ask you about nonviolence, because nonviolence is really the core of the peace issue, how we can help resolve conflicts through nonviolence and ahimsa and compassion and understanding. So I want to ask you, what is the core of your philosophy of resolving conflicts using nonviolence?
The cause for violence is misunderstanding, stress, and threat perception from the other. See, nobody will be violent on someone whom they don't feel threatened about, right? So now here you need to change the perception. Second, we have to bring down the stress level. Third, trust building is essential, Then you see, non-violence will be natural to us.
Is there a spiritual component to your philosophy of nonviolence as well?
Oh yeah. If you have any type of rage or anger or violence in you, you can't progress in the spiritual path. So meditation is impossible, or higher states of consciousness is not possible unless and until we take these steps of compassion, forgiveness, non-violence. In the yoga philosophy, non-violence is the first step one has to take in order to go into yoga.
Thank you, Gurudev. I want to ask you, what was it that you brought to the conversation in Colombia that you feel helped to resolve conflict there?
We have been working with the internally displaced refugees in Colombia. There are a lot of trauma, and meditation relieves people of their past traumas, and so we had taken care of a couple of million people there. So for that, the Colombian government decided to give us their highest civilian award. At that time, we had a conversation with the president. It was supposed to be just a handshake, but then it lasted for about an hour or so. Then the president was very worried that he said, we are left with only military option because the FARC were not amicable to any solutions. And every day there used to be bomb blast. They would bring down the tower, telephone towers and television towers, and water supply was disrupted. So then I asked the president, how about I will go and talk to them? He said, any help is welcome, but he said, I don't think there is much hope. 52 years is too much. We have had a lot of suffering. So I took a flight to Cuba, and they were there 14 of them, the commandos, Ivan Marcus and all of them. Then I went to, first they were little arm distance from me. They said, no, we don't want to meet anyone. Spiritual, religious people, you know. Our Bible is das capita, you know. We follow the communist principle. So we are not interested. But then that evening when I gave a talk in the University of Havana, they sent their feelers. Afterwards, they agreed to meet with me. They requested a meeting. So I welcomed them in the hotel I was staying. Then, you know, the talk went on. Then initially their intention was to convince me to talk to Colombian government to stop atrocity against them. So I told them, yeah, I understand you are all victims as well. And I know you have a lot of heartburn, lot of issues. I told them, see, I'm also for social justice. But if you eschew the path of violence and come to mainstream and, you know, and to place your demands, and together we can all improve the situation, see. Initially they were not willing, but then they all meditated with me. After meditation, they said, you know, this is something we were lacking in our movement. Then they followed me to the Indian embassy, and then we had 3 days of deliberation and meditations with them. An interesting thing, you know, they took 3-day silence program also out of it. And they were all like children. They, you know, they were so genuine. They were good people. Then we did a forgiveness exercise. We brought the victims of their violence from Colombia. We flew them. They sat with them. They asked them forgiveness. Said, will we be forgiven for our sin? And it was such a moving moment, Kevin. There was not one dry eye. Everybody had tears in their eye. They embraced each other, and they. So meditation has a big impact on the psyche of people. I'm glad you are taken meditation as the theme of your magazine, and this is the language of the wise. And if you have the silence, when you practice meditation, you can give that. It happens from your just presence, you know, like someone who is angry can trigger anger in everybody around them, right? So when you have peace, you can influence that peace in others through your own vibration. And you don't even do it, it happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Gurudev. It's amazing to hear that it was meditation and the forgiveness exercise that really helped to bring peace in Colombia. It's an amazing thing. Such a practice that we hold such as a personal practice within ourselves can make such a huge impact in the world. And I want to ask you about so the philosophy of nonviolence. I think we all agree the ideal is nonviolence always. But the question that I often get asked when I advocate for pure nonviolence is, some people say, oh, if the United States had been nonviolent in World War II, then we'd all be speaking German right now, as an example. And people often justify the use of violence by saying that the nuclear bombs ended World War II. Do you believe that violence is always wrong, or should we and we should always choose nonviolence, or do you feel that sometimes violence is needed or justified?
See, there is a difference between self-defense and violence. Violence is an action which comes out of with rage, anger, and hatred. But self-defense is much different from violence. Here, you are making sense when you are acting that way. For example, I would say police, when he is keeping law and order or keeping the calm of a city, and to keep that, he has to take care of some action against some crazy people. you don't call it here police is violence unless and until the police is prejudiced. So if police has prejudice, then their action becomes violence. But they're acting to keep law and order, to keep things sane, is not called violence. Similarly, the soldiers who defend a nation's freedom, you don't call them they are engaged in violent activity. You say them they are there to protect non-violence. They are the protector of compassion, they are protector of peace from those elements who are disturbing the peace of others. You see, there is a difference between having a fence to protect a garden and then someone who is destroying the garden, right? So in this sense, I wouldn't call that violence, but an action which would prevent violence from being affected to the whole community.
Yeah, thank you for that, Gurudev. And I'm really trying to find what the limits are of these philosophies of nonviolence as much as I can, and understand how it can be applied in real life situations. So right now we have a very difficult situation in the Middle East, and Israel is trying to defend itself, and they've gone very far in that response toward trying to eliminate the terrorists. They have killed many innocent people as well. So where do you draw the line in terms of self-defense?
You see, war, I would say, worst act of reason. Whenever someone starts war, they will give you all reason, all judgment, all it will appear to you, oh, they are doing the just thing, what is right. But to me, these are generated in the minds of people. If people who are in position of responsibility, if they meditate, I tell you, and if they tap the intuitive ability that they have, it will be a completely different story. Same with Ukraine and Russia. I would say you need better mediators here. You know, usually mediators sit with problems. I would say ask each party what is the solution they have, and you sit with the solution, you can find something. We did this for this 500-year-old conflict in India, you know, about the Ayodhya Ram temple issue. 72 wars have been fought on this one thing. But you know, sitting across the table, sitting with people who has neutral or who has credibility, can make a whole difference. And the whole thing got 5 acres was given to Muslims in another place. They were in possession of 2.5 acres. Double the land was given, and this birthplace of Rama was given to the Hindus. You know, in this one case, I would tell you, there was so much bloodshed has happened. So many governments have fallen on this one particular issue in India. So nobody asked for 5 acres land. It was my initiative. Then I said, look, if not now, 100 years later, 200 years later, someone will come and say, our land has been taken away. You know, that can be a cause of terrorism, or it can create a spark of hatred. So nib the bud of hatred, nib it at the bud, you know. If you see there is a flame of hatred might start in the future, you have to nib it at the very beginning. And that's what we did by giving 5 acres and bringing party, making them understand. With Israel and Palestine, I would tell you, it's not very different situation what India faced in 2611. India could have gone on war with Pakistan on this one issue. There were international people, there were Jewish people from Israel, they were being shot down. So many Indian businessmen were shot down. But India was very wise to act on that. What is needed is a proper communication or tit for tat will not work. Two wrongs cannot make one thing right. So you have to really have patience and deal with it. In the year 2008, I tell you, Kevin, India faced such terrible terror attacks. One every month they had, that whole year. And so people were angry, no doubt. But you have to restrain your anger and see what makes sense. And then go and act on it. I'm not saying, show the other cheek and get slapped from the other party and be compassionate. No, I'm saying you must take action, but make sure in your action you are not creating more adversities to you than what you find. Rather, you in your action, you are supporting those actions, those things which you don't want to happen. And here in Israel, Palestine, I see the same thing happening. With the action that is happening, the party who had done the initial wrong things are getting more compassion or more sympathy. This is a very, very important thing. You should never allow the person whom you want to punish to gain sympathy at any cost.
Yeah, wow. Thank you for that very deep answer. I really appreciate it. Another thing that I deal with as a magazine owner and editor and publisher in general is when I tend to try to promote peace by taking the side of peace over war. However, when I do that, many people do appreciate this approach, but many people also push back and say we can't just take the side of humanity and peace. We must take a side in the conflict and call out the aggressor.
I would say they are partially correct. They are correct in some way. You cannot just sit and say, okay, I'll meditate and send only positive vibration. You have to take some steps. But whatever steps you take, action you take, it should be well thought about. And that intuitive action or intuitive decision can only come through meditation. So they are not two opposites. When you meditate, you get the right thought, you get the right intuition, because you are not impulsive. You are not coming out of rage to do an action, which you end up regretting actually. And then your keenness of awareness makes a difference. Also, Kevin, I like to tell you, we all emit vibration. The whole universe is just vibrations. And when we have this positive vibration, it impacts the whole atmosphere. For example, what was happening in Washington, D.C., in last week of September and 1st of October, the government was going to shut down and there was a lot of chaos. Media was saying this is going to happen for sure. The government is going to shut down. And but we had the program there. We had 1.1 million people sit in silence, meditate for 20 minutes. The 3 days we had the program. The government did not shut down. They came into some understanding. They signed the bill, because it's created such positive vibes. The police department said we have never seen a gathering which had no violence, no issues, no tiffs or no conflicts there. And then another interesting thing, the survey says there was no homicide that whole week in Washington, D.C. Every day there has been a homicide in D.C., but that week when people had assembled to meditate, no homicide. I mean, it's not surprising for me, but the one who does not believe in meditation, for them it's surprising. I have seen the same thing, with hundreds and thousands of Naxalites or the guerrillas movement in India. When they took to meditation, Their whole attitude changed, where there used to be massacre every year, one or two, in the state of Bihar. You will not hear any of them anymore, because we approached them, talked to them. We made sure that they know that we understand them. We did the same thing in Denmark. 6,000 gang members, when they took to meditation, their life totally changed. These people who move around with the guns now are doing social work. They're helping people out.
Wow.
For this, we also started a program called Cities for Peace in United States. In several cities, including Los Angeles, Chicago, we brought together the police and the inner city gang members, sit together, breathe together, meditate together. The atmosphere, I tell you, is so beautiful, so different. So meditation has the power not only to change an individual, but also the vibration, because everybody's mind also works on the vibrations.
Yeah, thank you. Is it possible for me to just clarify my last question? When I say we need to find peace and understanding between both sides of conflicts, people say, no, we need to take one side or the other. So some people say we should take Israel's side. Some people say we should take Palestine's side. Some people say we should take Ukraine's side. I don't hear so much about that for Russia. But do you think is it important to choose a side in that way that people are suggesting, or do you think it's better to try to support all sides in peace and understanding?
You take the side of peace. You take the side of humanity. Don't label yourself. Once the moment you label yourself, you'll be useless to bring peace. You'll be useless to help people to come together. So people who take the side of peace, side of humanity, will say that everybody belongs to their side. You understand, if Israel is acting in a certain way, we understand why Israel is acting. If Palestine is acting, we understand what was their issue. You need to bridge the bridge, then a bridge will have to have a foot on both sides of the shore.
Okay, we're back. So we're back now, and we're going to be joined in a moment by Ravi Damelin and Layla Al-Sheikh from Parents Circle. Parents Circle is a beautiful organization in Israel and Palestine, where Israeli and Palestinian parents, bereaved family members who have lost loved ones in the war, sit down together to talk about reconciliation and to just have those conversations. I'm going to be bringing in Ravi and Layla in a minute. First, Dr. Kim, do you want to do a quick introduction for Parent Circle and for Ravi and Layla? Thank you.
Yes, I would love to give an introduction to the Parent Circle Families Forum. What a beautiful, beautiful group. It is a joint Israeli-Palestinian organization made up of more than 700 bereaved families, as Kevin just mentioned. Their common bond is that they have lost a close family member to the conflict. But instead of choosing revenge, they have chosen a path of reconciliation. These bereaved members have joined together to take tens of thousands of Palestinians and Israelis on journeys of reconciliation. It is often raw and always emotional. But of these interactions comes change. Not the kind of change that makes headlines, but a more personal and profound shift in perspective. Ravi Damelin joined the organization after her son was killed by a Palestinian sniper. She is now the spokesperson and director of international relations for the Parent Circle Families Forum. All her work on the ground, both in Palestine and Israel, and internationally, is geared towards nonviolence and reconciliation as a means to end the occupation. Layla Al-Sheikh lives in Bethlehem in the West Bank. In 2002, her 6-month-old son, Kusei, became ill, and Israeli soldiers prevented Layla from taking him to the hospital for more than 5 hours. Kusei soon died from the lack of timely treatment. Layla joined the Parent Circle in 2016 following her son's death. After this, she's devoted her time and energy to ensuring a better, more peaceful future for her children. On May 12th, please mark the calendar. This is a very important date where the Parent Circle will be holding their 19th annual Israeli-Palestinian Memorial Day ceremony. I'm so grateful to have you all with us. I cannot wait to hear more about the beautiful and impactful things that you do as a mom. My heart just breaks. There's nothing else. There's nothing else I could possibly say, but I am so very grateful and would love to introduce you to everyone. Thank you for being here, Ravi and Layla.
Lila, do you want to start or shall I? You start. Yes?
Thank you. Okay. So
beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting us to share with you and to speak to you about our stories and about our organization, especially in these dark times.
Yes.
As you mentioned, my name is Layla Sheikh. I'm from Bethlehem. I was born and raised in Jordan, and for me, it was a dream to come back to Palestine to live. And I was really so happy when I came here, and for me, it was a dream come true. And after two years, we have 2 children, and we become much happier because we start to have our own family. But during that time, the second uprising started, and the situation was so hard for me because that was the first time I live in a situation like that. Unfortunately, on the 11th of April 2002, my son woke up in very critical condition because at that night the Israeli soldiers came to our village and they threw tear gas, and because of that he became sick. And when we tried to take him to a hospital, they prevented us for more than 4 hours, and because of lack of treatment, we reached the hospital after 5 hours, and that was too late to save his life. At the end of that day, he died. At that day, I was really become very angry, become very sad. I felt of hatred, anger against all the Israeli, because for me, all of them were responsible about his death. But at the same time, I didn't think to take revenge, because revenge for me will never bring him back. And I take a decision not to have any kind of relationship with any Israeli person. And at the same time, I take another decision to take care of my family and try to make them away as much as I could from this cycle of violence. So life goes, and we continue, even when we had this kind of tragedy. So after 16 years, I met one of my friends. His name is Nasser, and he started to talk to me about the Parent Circle and how he joined one of their project. At the beginning, I wasn't really convinced about what he's talking about. And one day I said to him, "Are you crazy? I'm the last person that you could talk to him about this. You know what happened to me?" And he said, "I want to ask you a question. Why until now you didn't tell your other children who came after him about his story?" I said, "Because I didn't want them to be part of this cycle of violence. I didn't want to lose them, because maybe they will start to take revenge, and I'm not ready to lose another one." So he said to me, "Maybe you could, if you join the Parent Circle, not just protect your children, maybe other families." So he invited me to a conference for the Parent Circle in Bethlehem, and that was the first time I listened to Israeli who spoke about their personal story and how they lost their beloved ones, and I was really shocked because that was the first time I listened to these kind of stories. And for the first time, I looked at them as a human like me. The first time I felt that we share the same pain, we share the same tears, even if we had different circumstances, but we're still human. And nothing worse than losing a child. So from that day, I decided to participate in one of the project. It's the main project in the Parent Circle, which is called Parallel Narrative Project, which gives a chance for both sides to sit, to talk, to share, and to learn from each other. So we met for 8 times. We had two professors from both sides, Israeli Palestinian, who spoke about the history of the two nations. We went to visit Yad Vashem Museum to learn much more about the Holocaust. We even went to visit a Palestinian village was existed before 1948. It's not about comparing the pain. It's not about telling who's first, who's second, who's right, who's wrong, but it's about to understand each other, to understand where everyone came from, and to learn from each other. So one of the activity during this project asked us to talk about something happened during the conflict affect our life. And that was the first time I spoke about what happened to my son. Even between me and my husband, we didn't spoke about him after his death. And that was so hard for me after 16 years. Even it was like open the wound again, bring sorry, bring the memories back, the pain, the anger, everything. So I couldn't complete the story. In the middle of it, I started to cry. Then an Israeli woman called Louisa, she came and she started to apologize, and she said, "Yeah, I didn't hurt you, but the people who hurt you from my own people, I'm a mother too. I could understand your pain. I could understand the word that you even couldn't say." And she came and hugged me, and both of us started to cry. She didn't know that day by her simple word, she changed my whole life. And even she returned me back to my belief. As a Muslim mother, I believe in Quran. I believe in this all the scripture. But there's a script said, you can't judge all people because of a mistake of one person. I know it. I believe in it. But I didn't work with it because I felt of hatred and anger. So from that day, I decided to be a member of the forum, start to give lectures inside Israel, Palestine, to travel around the world to spread the message of peace and reconciliation. And I thought I'd become a great person and do everything right. And that's it. And everything goes well. But a year ago, we've been in Jerusalem, me and Ravi, with other people from other organization. And after we spoke about our stories, there's an Israeli man who stand up and start to talk about his personal story. I know him like 3 years ago, but that was the first time I listened to his story. And then he mentioned that he was a high officer and he served in my area. And he mentioned that he prevented a Palestinian car which had sick children from going to a hospital. Then it's become hard for me. It was that was the real test. If I meant every word I say, if I meant everything I did, at the beginning, I really didn't know what to say or do. I start to cry. Then Robbie asked both of us to go outside and start to talk. And then he said to me, this is so important for me to tell you that part. I know it's hard, but I want really to let you know. And he said, after time, my son becomes sick. And when I try to take him to a hospital, the guard stopped me because he want to ask a few questions. And I was in a hurry. Then I understand what I did to the Palestinian. He quit from the army. He jailed because he refused to serve again. And he established another organization called Combatant for Peace, which our partner in at the Memorial Day that you spoke about. And then I look at him and I said to him, look, Khen, this is so hard for me to listen to you. Well, at the same time, I want to thank you because if I know that part of your story was there and you didn't tell me, I will never forgive you. But because you had that honest and that courage to speak in front of me, I could forgive you. And because I know what you tried to do in the ground to end this occupation, to end this conflict, I could now forgive you. And then I realized this is the real reconciliation. It's so easy to speak about love and peace and all these words, but sometimes you will ask yourself if you really meant that or not. In that day, I realized I meant everything I did, and that gave me a power to continue, even in these dark times, especially after the 7th of October. Um, Most of the people just think about what happened to Gaza. Yeah, it's something horrible what's going on there, but at the same time, what happened in the West Bank it's not easy to for us, because from the 7th of October until today, we're still under closure. All the people who work inside Israel, they lost their jobs. Most of the children, they couldn't go to their schools or to their universities. We even didn't have shelters. Like in my village, there's some rockets fell down, and my children were terrified because we didn't know what we should do, or there's no place to hide. And every day, the settlers attack the Palestinians at the street. They burn their houses, they burn their cars. And the problem is that the army encouraged them, and they've been with them um, to let them do whatever they want, and no one will stop them. We know this is a hard time, but we should stand together, because this is the time that we really should stand together to tell everyone to stop. This is enough. God created us to love each other, not to kill each other, and to live like a normal people. And this is what we try to do, to stop this occupation, to stop this violence, because our children deserve to live a normal life like any other else people. One of the most incredible things to be part of this organization, to have friends like Ravi and other. I have many friends who become much closer to me than my family members, and I learned so much things from Ravi. She's not just friend or colleague; she's like a teacher for me. I learned many things from her. So thank you so much for inviting us.
That was so beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing, Layla. You're incredibly inspiring. And as a woman, I consider a strong woman balancing through, just as all of us, you truly are an inspiration. I'm sure I speak for everyone when I say that the authenticity in your journey through forgiveness, and how it did come in stages, and how you are reminded, and it's not just like you make a decision and you're set for life. There's times where we have to work through those moments. I really, really appreciated that aspect, and that's what led to that forgiveness. And that forgiveness is, something that you carry through and is constant practice. So I'm very, very grateful for you. Ravi, I would love to bring you in now into this conversation, please. Clearly, I know that Layla very much looks up to you, and I'm certain all of us are going to further understand exactly why that is. If you could tell us a little bit more about your journey and how you became part of the Parent Circle and how that has fulfilled your life, if I may say.
I think in many ways it's not exactly, it brought a kind of catalyst for me to understand why people do things. And I have been thinking a lot about what happened on October the 7th and what happened with the man who killed my son, David, and how I could understand why. It's not about condoning violence. It's about when you understand why, it's a beginning maybe of a discussion. And when I think about how children grow up in Gaza with constant war every 2 years, and their mothers not having shelter and running away and not being free and not having freedom of movement, what kind of adult comes out of that? And then I look at the children who live on the kibbutzim, which is on the border of Gaza, and how they thought they were invincible. They had many rockets, but they had shelters. And suddenly October the 7th changed everything for them. And what kind of adults are they going to be? And what kind of adults are these children who live in Sderot and Ashkelon and Ashdod, the villages or towns surrounding Gaza, who've been bombarded with rockets from when they were very small? So our work is very much cut out for us. I think that in many ways I reacted to October the 7th almost the same way that I reacted when I heard that David was killed. It was like this immediate need to change the world overnight, and maybe not really to be in touch with the grief. So when the soldiers came to tell me that David had been killed by a Palestinian sniper, one of the first things that I said is, you actually can't kill anybody in the name of my child. I don't really know where that came from, but it was very prophetic in what I was going to be doing with the rest of my life. The parent circle found me after I spoke at a demonstration to end the occupation, and I said in that same statement that we could not do this alone. We had to have a Palestinian partner. And so they invited me to come to a weekend in East Jerusalem, and I remember sitting around this table and looking into the eyes of the Palestinian mothers and realizing that we actually shared the same pain, and that the tears that fell into anybody's grave are the same color, and that we could be this remarkable force if we could stand on a stage together, just like you watch Lila and I, and talk in the same voice for reconciliation, for non-violence, and for ending the occupation. How extraordinary would that be? And if we can do that, the least likely people, surely that would be an example for everybody else. So after this weekend was a very pivotal part of my life, I started to travel all over the world. And I was really very pleased with myself and thought I was extremely important. And because I had the English, I could understand. They invited me to, I don't know, the Congress, to the Parliament in London, to Canada, all over the world. And I was pretty pleased with myself. And one night I was sitting next to my computer. There was another knock on my door. And I opened the door and there were 3 soldiers standing there. 3 soldiers only means one thing. So I just kept slamming the door in their face and they kept knocking. And eventually I opened the door because I thought, I can't lose another child. I will not be able to handle that. And they said, we came to tell you that we caught the man who killed David. That's when it became really difficult, because those are the tests that happen all along the way. And, you know, you think you're very smart and you think you really believe in what you're saying. But just like Lila, that test happened for me. And the soldiers thought I would be delighted and dance around my lounge because we now have revenge. But actually, this is when it became extremely difficult, because did I mean what I said? You know, it's all very well, you can travel around and talk about love and read bad poetry and talk about reconciliation, but do you actually mean it? And for months I didn't sleep. I just walked around thinking about it wouldn't be in integrity to be part of this organization if I couldn't walk the talk. And it took about 3 months, and I wrote a letter to the family of Thaya, that's the sniper, the name of the sniper who killed David, in which I told them about the parent circle, that we are 700 families and who have all lost an immediate family member. And we believe that for any political future peace agreement, there has to be a framework for a reconciliation process, because without that, all we can have at best is a ceasefire. We've signed these kind of agreements before, but the people have never been involved. So the fact that the parent circle, the work is cut out to create an environment, even though in these very dark times it must seem to you to be impossible, but to create an environment where you can see that there is a possibility for reconciliation. And I'm so glad that you spoke about the ceremony on the 12th of May, which is normally a commemoration day for Israeli soldiers, but the parents see it differently. So we have a joint ceremony with Palestinians, and we tell stories of loss, and we have music, and we have words of compassion. And this year, much of the ceremony will be dedicated to children in war. What have these children ever done? The only crime is that they were born Israeli or Palestinian. That's their crime. And so we speak about that, and children from our summer camp will be reading a letter that they wrote to the children in Gaza. And there will be a beautiful clip and music by a young choir. But also there will be people, and here's the miracle and here's the hope. There will be people who lost immediate family members on the 7th of October and after, and are talking out immediately for peace and to stop this war. That brings light. You have to understand how important that is. And we have something like 20 families from Israel who've joined, because many of the people who were killed in the South actually were quite leftist in their views. So I really encourage you to watch the ceremony, and hope is such an important part of the equation of peace. Without that, there can't be peace. And so I wrote this letter, and I also told the parents of Thaya that we needed to meet. We owed that to our children and grandchildren. I'm not the most patient character in the Middle East. I imagine that I will get a letter back, within days. It took 3 years. There's no such thing as instant reconciliation. It might actually never happen. So it took 3 years, and I got a letter saying that I'm crazy. I kind of knew that beforehand, and that I should stay away from his family, and that he killed 10 people to free Palestine. But you see, I knew from his parents that when he was a small child, he saw his uncle violently killed by the Israeli army, and he lost 2 further uncles in the second uprising. So here's your understanding why. It's not condoning. There's nothing about condoning this, but once you understand why, it can be the beginning of some form of reconciliation. I think what was very important about this letter is I actually gave up being a victim. I don't even call myself a survivor. I call myself a victor. I went to South Africa, where probably by now you realize that's where I came from originally. And we made a film by looking at the Truth and Reconciliation Commission to understand and learn lessons from them. And I personally went to understand what the meaning of forgiving is. And I met an extraordinary woman who'd lost her daughter and had gone to the Truth and Reconciliation Commission and said, I forgive you, to the people who killed her daughter. And I went to meet her and said, what do you mean when you say you forgive? What's your definition? And she said, for me, forgiving is giving up your just right to revenge. And then I met the man who actually had sent the people who killed her daughter. And I was expecting this terrible character. Turns out an extraordinary man who says to me, by her forgiving me, she released me from the prison of my inhumanity. I don't know if we have time for question and answer. Do we? Can you tell me so that...
Yes, we will likely have time for some question and answer. We have some more questions for the two of you. And audience, I'd like to let anybody in the audience know that if you have any questions, please post them in the chat, in the comments, and we will do our best to ask those questions.
By the way, I just wanted to mention that it says Israeli and Palestinian mothers who have lost children, but there are also, this organization was started by a man. And it's true that we women have taken over in a way, but there are many men who belong to the organization who are doing wonderful work. So that was an important thing to say. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ravi. And the beautiful thing is that, the questions that we had in mind, each one of you so eloquently basically answered them. But in your stories, if I can just take this moment, and clearly we're kind of by nature on the spot, and you described it so beautifully, but in kind of the closing for both of you in this interview, before the audience comes in with questions, if I can just ask you both at this point, and I recognize that it can adjust and change with life circumstances, but how would you define forgiveness at this moment in time, given everything that you've walked through?
Lila, you want to do that?
Lila, would you like to go first?
Forgiveness for me, it's not to forget, because we can't forget what happened to our children. But the most important thing, to find a way to continue, because this is so hard sometimes to explain for people, because for me, I always want to try the hardest way, not the easiest way, because the easiest way is try to find revenge. But for me, revenge, it will never bring anything for me. It will never bring my son back. It will never bring justice for me. It will never do anything for me. It will bring much innocent people to this cycle of violence. Forgiveness for me, it's to forget the hatred, the anger, because that will eat you alive. Because of that hatred and anger that I kept inside of me for more than 16 years, I even really have health issues because that's really, it's literally eat you alive. Because I forgive not just because I want to forgive, but because I want to feel peace inside of me. I want that. I always felt there's like mountains in my back, and I want to feel free. So when I forgive, I feel really felt free, and this is what I want. I don't know if I answer you or
That was
Yeah.
a perfect answer, Layla. I'm so grateful. Just taking a
Right.
moment here to take it all in, but that was so beautiful. Yes. Ravi, may I ask
I
you?
think it's complicated because it's not constant. You know, what does it mean you forgive? And that's why when I met the man who sent the people who killed the daughter of my friend in South Africa, when he said, by her forgiving me, she released me from the prison of my inhumanity, which I thought was extraordinary. So that's part of the story, but it isn't all the time. There are times when you question, are you really, or do you really mean what you say? And sometimes you get very angry, but the basis is that you are at peace with yourself. And now, you know, even this wanting to meet with the man who killed David is not so pressing. I'm so much at peace with myself now, and I feel that I can be vulnerable in any environment, and that's okay. You know, and I'm watching what's happening all over the world now, and where are we going, and how can we get to stop the importation of our conflict into other countries? Because I'm watching the students, and it's extraordinary what they're doing, and that they are students all over the world against the war. But I ask if maybe, just maybe, they would export some kind of support for people that are working on the ground for peace. Wouldn't that be so much better if they work together, Jews, Muslims, and Christians, for a peaceful setting and not to import our conflict? I don't see why some kid who's studying medicine happens to be Jewish has anything to do with what is happening in this war. Forgiveness and is so much part of being able to see the bigger picture and not to want what Lila was talking about, that petty revenge. I think if there was a revenge, I would have done anything just to spend another 2 minutes with David. He was such an extraordinary young man, and he was studying for his master's in the philosophy of education. And he was part of the peace movement, and he didn't want to serve in the occupied territories. But here you are, you begin to understand what the education is of a kid that grows up here and who feels this duty. You know, you don't always know who the person is behind the gun. And the extraordinary thing is that I remember I gave a talk at the American Embassy, and there were Palestinian in the audience. And he said that he drove through the checkpoint the night before David was killed, and they had a long conversation. And David said, you know, I have to see your papers. I'll do it as fast as possible. And they got into a conversation, and that's actually the essence of all the work that we're doing. He said, I was so sorry when I heard your son was killed, this Palestinian man. How did that come about? I think that's because he saw the humanity. They saw the humanity in each other. And that's a beginning. And we have to find that beginning again. We can't keep killing each other. We have to stop this war. And perhaps everybody who's listening can be a part of the solution and not the problem. It can force us to the table, force Israel to stop this madness. And please bring back the hostages.
Thank you, Robbie. What you've expressed just now is very moving and very powerful, both of you. And you just mentioned a few minutes ago about the protests in the United States. And it's something that is very important to understand right now. We see what's going on, and it's a big conflict here. You mentioned we're kind of you're importing the conflict into other countries. And part of what I've been trying to do is trying to understand how we, as Western people or people in the United States, Canada, Australia, other places, can make a positive difference and interact in the right way, where instead of making things worse, we're making things better. So I would ask you, do you feel that it's good that there are there's pro-Palestinian and pro-Israeli conflict protests that are sort of dueling in these places, or do you feel that there's a place for those things, or do you feel that it is better if we all activists who want to see peace in Israel and Palestine join hands, as you said, and work together without fighting with each other, without pointing fingers and laying blame and accusing and dehumanizing? What do you feel is the best path for students in the United States? And I'd put that to both you and Layla, and not just the United States, around the world.
Firstly, I wish people would realize that neither side is going to disappear in a puff of smoke. So maybe be part of the solution. How could you be part of the solution? Perhaps you could tell the story of a mother who lost her child, and yet she's willing to come and talk and be together. The story of Lila. Tell the story of a Palestinian woman who lives in Gaza and what her daily life is like. Show some compassion. What is the human result of this conflict? What happened on October 7? How many people are still hostages? I keep having this picture in my head of this little boy in the ruins of Gaza, standing with his cat and refusing to go to the south if his parents would not take him in a taxi with his cat. That's the human side of the story. The little girl who was a hostage, who came out with her dog, a little dog called Bella. That's the human side of the conflict. They have to look at that. Look at Lila and I. We are a result of this madness. It has to stop. I know that the people who gave me the most solace when David was killed were other bereaved mothers. And I'm hoping that we can do this. And it's extraordinary to see the people who have lost family members on the 7th from both sides, who are talking out today for peace and to stop this madness. And you can help us by trying to get your congressman to force Israel and Palestine to sit down and find a way. We don't have to love each other, but we have to stop killing each other. I know what's waiting for all of these families and how tragic that is, and who will remember their names. I bet you that if you ask all these students that are demonstrating, and I'm not against demonstrations, I'm against violence, ask them the names of any of the children that were killed in Gaza or in Israel, or the names of the hostages, or the names of a soldier, or the names of a mother in Gaza who was killed, or her children. I doubt if they would know that. And that's the human consequence. And that's what we have to show to people, the humanity of the other.
Yeah. Thank you.
That
Thank
was
you.
a speech. I didn't mean to do that.
No, it's beautiful. And just to clarify, so you said you're not against the demonstrations, but we need to have humanity in them. Do you feel that there are some very, I won't say violent, but very angry kinds of demonstrations here, very sort of one-sided, you could say. There's on both sides. There's the pro-Israel and pro-Palestine demonstrations that are both very angry. So do you feel that is helpful, or do you feel that is harmful, or what do you think about that? And I want to go to Layla
It's
after.
violent. I'm sorry, but I can't say that it's not violent. If you look at what happened in Columbia University, that's violent. And wouldn't it be extraordinary if the Jewish and the Muslim and the Christian students would all sit down and try to support people like Blala and me and the 700 families who are fighting every day and combatants for peace and other NGOs that are fighting for peace, to get to know them, to get educated. I don't know if half of these people have any idea what they're saying when they say the river to the sea, or when they say all kinds of names and posters of things that are not true. So the problem is very much increased by the media. The Palestinians see their media, we see our media. It's like living in a parallel universe. And so nobody knows exactly what the truth is. But we have to be clean with ourselves. And those students have to be educated to nonviolence. You can't break into windows. And I was watching that and my heart was just breaking because I thought they care. But that care is not helping Lila, and it's certainly not helping me.
Thank you, Ravi. And Lila, I want to ask you the same thing. What do you think about these protests, and do you feel that they're doing things the right way, or should they be doing things differently?
Protest, but
there we go.
okay.
Okay, you're back.
As I say, as Ravi said, we are not against this kind of demonstration, but I could understand their anger, both sides. I could understand that when you be away and you just listen to the news or to social media, you want to do something, and sometimes you think this is the right way. But I think if they had a chance to sit and to speak about this and to understand and to listen to our stories, like me and Ravi or other bereaved families from both sides, they could understand that even in these hard times, we try to do our best to end this occupation, to end this conflict, because of not just because of ourselves, but even because of the next generations who will come and ask themselves what they did to end this. And I don't want them to say they just sit aside and they didn't do anything. I know and I could understand that they want to do something, but they should ask themselves. And I didn't blame them. I blame maybe the government that how they deal with it in a violent way. Maybe they should listen to them. Maybe there's many things to do. And one of the most important things, if the government could stop sending this money to encourage the people to do this war much more. But if they encourage them to put this money to end this war and to try to find solution, and we didn't want to have a ceasefire, because if that will happen, that meant after maybe 1 year or 2 years, we will have another war. And this is what will happen. Like we live in from 75 years, every 2 or 3 years we have another war, but now we have a solution. So instead of doing this, try to think what kind of things that you maybe thoughts or things that you could give it to us to find a solution. And this is what we need. We want them to pro peace, because this is enough. It's really so hard sometimes to listen to the news. Most of the time I didn't want to really hear anything, because this is really so hard. And I know, and I could understand the people who live outside Palestine or Israel, they will be so angry because they try to do something they didn't know what to do, and they didn't know how to do that. So we encourage them to sit, to listen to each other, to speak about that.
Thank you. Thank you, Lila. Oh, hang on.
I
Sorry.
wanted to mention, if possible, that we are doing a project because so many people all over the world have been asking us to do dialogue meetings. We were in Washington, and Georgetown University has been a mentor of the Parent Circle for many years. And when we were there, they have created together with us an idea for an online module, because we can't possibly cope with all the people from all over the world that are asking for dialogue meetings. So in May, we will have a soft launch of an online dialogue meeting with question and answers and a catalogue or a book to give instructions to the person who's leading that particular classroom or synagogue or town hall meeting. You cannot begin to understand how many people have been in touch with us. We also met with your teachers union in Washington, and they are helping us. We did a dialogue meeting with all the teachers at their conference, and they will put this online module into a lot of schools and universities. That's something that we can do, because I think if people say they met Bassam and Laila or Naomi or somebody from the parent circle from both sides talking in one voice, maybe that will make a difference. It's very difficult to remain kind of without being any kind of emotion if you hear somebody's personal story. It makes that emotional breakthrough. And that's what we're all about, is this personal story to try to get to the heart of somebody else.
Yeah. Thank you, Ravi and Lila. I want to go to some of the audience questions because we have a bunch of questions and comments. And one of them, somebody, Merrick Solel Au, I don't know how to pronounce the last name. She is a political scientist, apparently. She's been talking in the comments. And she, here, I'll just post them on the screen so that we can see. And I'd like to get your responses to these, see if we can have an understanding about these. So Merrick said, Israel has been committing genocide against Palestinians since 1948. I agree with the concepts, but we have to address the historical accuracy. And she also did say thank you for speaking from the heart and for the work that you're doing, just to flesh out some of her comments here. But then about the college students, she said they're protesting U.S. investment and funding in the genocide and doing so peacefully, and there's no violence, and the police are the ones using violence. And basically that essentially what needs to be done is that people need to protest against the Israeli genocide, as she calls it, and that this is a very important thing. So I'd like to just get your responses to this from both of you, if possible.
I think we answered that question very well already. I think that there's no problem. Neither of us have a problem with demonstrations. Of course I'm okay. And you cannot tell me that the demonstrations are not violent if the students cannot, the Jewish students cannot, are sitting at home online to do this, to do their work. So if people are frightened, doesn't matter who they are, the demonstrations are violent. It doesn't mean that I'm saying don't demonstrate. It doesn't mean that I'm not against the war. Of course I am. But support the people who are trying to make a difference. Neither side will disappear, no matter how much you want it, no matter how many terms you find that you think are very important. We throw out all these terms, apartheid, genocide, all these words, but I don't hear humanity. You're not going to make us disappear. I'm sorry. For a really just solution, one side might have to disappear, but we're going to have to compromise. We're going to have to learn to live together and to respect each other. And it's not by taking a side. It's very difficult. It really is difficult. It's like walking on eggs. I can tell you that since the beginning of the war, I've been to America twice. I've been to Italy, where I had to have guards to walk around with me. I've been to Germany and to London, and next month I will be in America again. And it's endless, and it's polarized, and importing our conflict without helping. How is it helping, Lila, this whole long statement that you just made? Of course, I think we have to stop the war. Of course, we have to start negotiating. And of course, 1948, there's a whole historical narrative about that. And by the way, Lila was talking about the parallel narrative program that we have. And we have Palestinian historians and Israeli historians telling the milestones of our history. And guess what? That's also a parallel universe. So, don't be just get more educated. That's all I'm saying. Really. Sorry,
Thank you.
Lila.
No, thank you, Ravi. And Lila, do you want to address this question as well?
Yeah, I think they are not just angry because what happened inside Palestine and Gaza and Israel. They even angry because what their government did. Because as we know that many countries they support Israel by sending weapons for them, and I think this is what make most of the people around the world very angry because this is not what should happen. They should help to end this war. And I can understand the violence that will happen. And I think it will be much more if the governments didn't know how to deal with this situation.
Yeah. Thank you.
I mean,
Thank you.
can you imagine if all the money, if there's an equal amount of money would be invested in peace? There's such a small percentage of government money all over the world that's invested in peace. What about investing those thousands and billions of dollars in peace, in making another environment for the people who live in Gaza so that they will grow up with some hope? Because you can't kill an idea. You can try to wipe out as many people as you think are the enemy, but if you don't change their circumstance and their way of living, and if you think that the West Bank, everybody's so concerned with Gaza, but they're not looking at the West Bank. And Lila just told you a small part of how difficult it is to live in the West Bank now, and how many people have been killed since October, and how many men are not going to work. And that creates domestic violence. And what about the 80,000 people who have been out of their homes since the 7th of October in Israel, in the north? What kind of family, what kind of things are going on in those families, if not domestic violence? So please, let us invest in peace.
Thank you. Thank you both. Thank you both for those answers. And I just want to make sure to note that because Merrick had mentioned while Ravi was speaking that she does not wish for the erasure of the Jewish people and things like that. And she just wanted to let you know that and to make sure that she wasn't misunderstood. So thank you. Thank you for the question, Merrick. And I want to bring in some more questions here from the audience. I did see one that was asking, and if I can find it, I'll put it up on the screen here. Okay, peace starts locally. As do I begin a peace initiative in the city in which I live?
I'm sorry, I didn't get that question. Sorry.
Okay, it's also at the bottom of the screen. So Linda Lindstrom says, peace starts locally. As one person, how do I begin a peace initiative in the city in which I live? Do you want to start, Ravi or Leila?
Maybe if you could speak about what you heard today, about our stories, about the thing that we say, if you start to tell your neighbors, your friends about that. I believe that when I look to what happened in our organization, because there's many people said, you've been like from 20 years, what did you achieve? I said, if we look to what happened, this organization, it was just a thought in the mind of a man. But now we are, we are more than 700 families from both sides. And we believe that we are in the right track. And as they said, the road of mile, it will start with one step. We believe that if just one person could listen to us and understand what's going on from one to another, then we will have much people who listen to us and understand and supported us. Um,
Thank you, Laila. And so one person was asking if there are ways that she can help. For example, donations. Is there a way to donate to what you're doing at Parent Circle, or something that you would recommend?
Well, I think it would be very important, firstly, to get a newsletter from us. I don't know where you live, Megan, but that's a Welsh name, I think. Wherever you live, maybe you would like to get a newsletter from the American Friends of the Parent Circle, because we are very often in the States, and you could arrange for some kind of a meeting. And by the way, when this module is available, that's something that you could start to have a small screening in your neighborhood. And right away on the 12th of May, you can have a screening with all your friends to watch the ceremony. I don't know if you have all the details about the ceremony, but I can ask Leo to send you how to register.
I've just posted the link for the ceremony in the comments. Yeah, please let me know.
For some reason, I don't see the comments.
Oh, okay. They're in yeah, they're in the comments on the Facebook and on the YouTube. So anybody who's watching there can access those.
That's great, because I think that's a beginning for so many people to understand that it is possible to have another way of living.
Yeah, thank you. Dr. Kim, I'd like to, I've sort of been talking a lot, and I'd like to give you a chance if you have questions or wanted to ask anything before we go to other audience questions, if there are any.
At this moment, I don't have too many questions. I'm still just kind of sitting in this moment, being very present, taking in the main things that I have taken away from this. And I can see that there are several other people who are with me in this, is that having walked through, not just having actually walked through such horrific situations such as these, again, I really appreciate the fact that I've heard both of you say that it is not just one constant, one way, one solid equation. It is a constant reflection. It is a way of responding versus reacting, which is something that I know I personally have to live by. The fact that it is one thing to say certain things, but another to really sit in someone's shoes and think of how we can truly start to help. And the best way, one other aspect that I heard both of you say that I will take away with me in everything that I do, so I'm so grateful, is that true forgiveness truly comes from within. It's the peace within. And I was also in my lineage and how I was raised, what I believe I'm a part of in this universe, and I could not live without, was that understanding as well, that we sometimes very often cannot change what happens outside of us, but what we can always change is within. And if we can find that peace within, which takes a lot of work and it's not always easy. I love that you said that, Ravi and Lila. It's not always easy at all, but we're able to do it. And when we do that, we release ourselves and have that freedom. So I am very, very grateful. I do not have further questions. And again, as a mother, as a woman, as a human, very grateful for you both for being here today.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Kim. I am seeing more questions coming in. I saw Shalini Gupta.
Yes.
She asked, she said, what you have both said is so profound. How can we help to get peace? So I guess the question is sort of what's the path here for to going toward peace?
You know what? One of the biggest lessons that I personally had is learning to listen with empathy, even if I don't agree. And that is one of the major things that creates this extraordinary relationship that I have. Lila and I don't always agree on everything, but we respect and love each other enough to trust each other, and not to judge. And so it's so easy to listen and judge and become angry, but empathy is such a huge part of growing up. You know, I have a very sharp tongue if I want, but I realized that all I did was close everybody down because I was so involved with being right. You don't have to always be right, but you can listen to people with empathy and listen. That's the thing. Are we really hearing what each other are saying? It's such, I could tell you lots of stories, we don't have time, because I'm a storyteller, but I can tell you that in my own growth, it came from understanding that I could listen even if I didn't agree.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Robbie. And Lila, do you want to comment on this?
Maybe not in this particularly because we spoke about that before, but what I want to say, there's many people who didn't know that all the people in the West Bank, they have relative in Gaza.
Hmm.
And we thought after what happened on the 7th of October, there's many people who left their organization, but there's just 3 people who left. And there's many people who lost their beloved ones after the 7th of October, joined the parent circle because they believe in reconciliation. And this is an amazing thing because most of people, they thought that everyone will leave. And we've been afraid, to be honest. But thank God that there's many people who still believe that peace and reconciliation is the solution for this situation.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Lila. I wanted to end with this last question because I know we have to wrap up in a few minutes, from Linda Lindstrom. How do you take care of your own mental, emotional, and spiritual health, given what you've been through and being able to go forward today?
I believe in one sentence, it says, God did everything for purpose, or there is always something happen for something. I will tell you a short story. When I lost my son, and the same day, I had a dream about a white dove came and stand on my shoulder and said to me, Mama, don't cry. I'm so happy. I know that he's happy with God because he's just 6 months old. But I didn't understand that day why he came as a white dove. Then when I became a member in the organization, I realized that it was kind of message from God to tell me that this is your new mission in your life. And like, he didn't want the death of my son went without achieving something. So every time when I felt sad or angry, I remember that dream, and that gave me power and a courage to continue.
Thank you. And I'd ask the same to Ravi. How do you take care
For
of yourself?
me,
Go ahead.
for me, it's a sense of gratitude. I know that sounds extraordinary, but to be able to be a catalyst in the change of somebody's life who has started off with so much hatred and wanting revenge, and to watch them blossom into a transformation of love and wanting peace, you can't imagine how grateful I am for that. And when I look at the kids from our summer camp who had signed a charter on the 21st of September for non-violence and for ending the occupation and for reconciliation, and then 3 weeks later was the war, and suddenly all the nastiness and the TikTok and the Instagram and all these horrible social media messages were sent between the two of them. These kids, 50 kids, Palestinian and Israeli, bereaved, suddenly couldn't bear each other. And so we worked with them uninationally for something like 3 months. And then they spoke on Zoom and they played the game of being in the other's shoes. And that was extraordinary. And this year, because of the closure in Gaza, in the West Bank, we are taking all these kids to Cyprus, to the mountains, to a summer camp, because they have to heal. These kids are the future of this organization. So I'm grateful that we can do that. You can't imagine how extraordinary it is to be a part of all of this work. So I guess that and the yoga and a bit of walking does one physically good. Oh, and a sense of humor.
Yeah.
If you don't
Yeah.
laugh, there's no bridge to the heart.
Wow. Yeah. It must be very difficult to find that sense of humor in such grief. And I applaud both of you and thank both of you for the work that you're doing, for the beautiful peace that you're bringing in the world, in the Middle East and Israel and Palestine. It must be so hard, but it's so important. And yes, thank you for being here. Thank you, Laila, and thank you, Ravi, both of you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I want to let the audience know we are going on to a break in the live stream now, and we're going to start a new live stream in a few minutes, where we're going to have Chandra Lakombe, his song for peace, and we're going to have Nonviolent Peace Force speaking live from Sudan and Myanmar and Washington, D.C. And we're going to be having some really powerful sessions coming up in about 10 or 15 minutes. So I'm going to stop this live stream in a moment. And then what I want you to do is just refresh the page. If you're on YouTube or if you're on Facebook, just refresh the page in about 5 minutes and you'll see the new stream. Okay. Thank you. Thank you all for being here. And I'll see everyone in the next session.
Thank you.
Bye.